sorry. Commissioner Chance,
Here.
Commissioner Taylor,
Here.
Commissioner Chismar is here, and on the phone, we have Commissioner Edding, correct?
Present.
Great, okay. Next thing is look at approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
I second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, it's 4-0, okay. The Town Administrator's Report, Mr. Hopkins.
Mr. Vice Chair, good afternoon. I do not have anything to report at this time.
All right, this could be a quick meeting then, great. Tentative agenda for the Town Hall meeting, next item on the agenda. First off, we have a presentation for the Municipal Citizens Academy graduation. Mr. Hopkins, I believe that's you.
It is. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. So we're going to have the graduation ceremony for the several people that are attending the inaugural Municipal Citizens Academy. They will all be in attendance, so we plan to present them with graduation certificates and to thank them for their participation. We will also have a brief reception for them following the meeting. So several of them work in local businesses that night and may have to leave before the meeting's over. My hope is that they can stay since we have a relatively short agenda, maybe have some cake and celebratory stuff with the commissioners and staff, and then we'll go from there. So, yeah, it should be a nice graduation. Should have 5, possibly 6 graduating that night with the class.
Yes, and I've heard from several people, it was a very worthwhile class to take. How many, I forget, how many were involved in this?
Originally, we had 7. It was a very low turnout, but that's okay. I expected that it might have been low since the first one. Unfortunately, one of the participants had a number of emergencies that just negated them from participating.
Right.
That dropped us down to 6. But the 6 that were there were very actively engaged, very much interested, and have told me verbally they found the class worthwhile. So I don't want to sound self-serving, so I'm hoping I can take that level of confidence into the next class this fall.
Right, and I'm hoping they'll spread the word for
Me
other
too.
people to see that, because this is new and it may not have been well known within the community and with other people playing it up, because if they thought it was that worthwhile, it will get more attendance next year, I hope.
That's my hope, yes, sir. Thank you.
Any other comments on that? All right. Next item is the public hearing for resolution 1246-25, Armory fee schedule amendments. I believe that's Mr. Krantz.
Thank you, Commissioner Chismar. This is, as promised, the public hearing for the resolution 1246-25. This is for the $10 increase from $150 to $160 for the business and individual lease rates for rental of the Bel Air Armory, as well as the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, the $160 lease rate, 6-hour minimum for that particular day as well, too. Staff does recommend approval of this resolution following the public hearing on the 17th.
Okay.
Unless there's any additional questions, I have nothing further to report.
No, I have none. Commissioner Edding, or Chair Edding, do you have any comments on that?
No, I do not. Sounds reasonable to me.
Okay. All right, and that'll be all, so will be a topic for our unfinished business, and then the only new business we have would be the reappointment to the Economic and Community Development Commission, which we'll handle that in closed session at the end of this when we're talking about personnel. Okay. So with that, we have any commissioner liaison reports?
The Appearance and Beautification Committee met last night, and the only thing that I have to report is that everyone sitting in Town Hall today should have gotten a counter card for the Bel Air Garden Mart. For my commissioner colleagues, it's in your mailbox. For everybody else, it should be right in front of you. Mark your calendars for Friday, May 9th from 8:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. at the Bel Air Armory. Should be a fantastic time. The ABC group does a fantastic job with that. We're very proud of all the work that they do to make Bel Air look as visually appealing as it does, and this is a great event for our community.
Okay, great. Commissioner Chance, do you have any?
I don't have anything additional since last week, so I will next week.
Okay, and for the committees I was on, we have not had a meeting with the Planning Commission nor the Board of Appeals, so nothing to update there. So staffing update.
Yep.
Mr. Krantz.
Yes, sir, thank you. The Town of Bel Air currently has advertised a part-time procurement officer position, as well as a full-time planning and zoning deputy director position. Both positions are listed as open until filled, and the town also recently posted a job officer for a job bid for a contractual recording secretary. That is also available on the town's website. So those are the positions that we're actively recruiting for at the moment. Knock on wood, we'll have some good candidates in the not-so-distant future. And we are into the interviews already with the planning position. We have a couple more additional interviews this week, and I think maybe one more next week. And the procurement position, we already had several candidates come through, and I think we'll be interviewing them shortly.
Okay, great. So at least we're getting some interest with the community
Yes, sir.
for applications, so that's a good thing. Anybody else have any comments?
I have one comment under the committee positions expiring through August 31st. This month is a 5-Monday month, and so we actually won't have another town hall meeting until after Mr. McCarron's position has expired on the tree committee on April 4th, unless we wanted to take a special leave to vote on that position on April 1st, which we could do, so as to not have a technicality where the position is vacant for a couple days. Not that it's the end of the world if that is the case, but I wanted to point that out to the group to see what my colleagues thought would be the best course of action there.
Potentially even vote in advance at the upcoming, on the 17th?
We certainly could. Do we have confirmation that this is a reappointment?
I have not spoken to him, no.
Okay. Commissioner Edding?
I will, it's actually a she, and I
Oh.
will ask her if she wants to continue. I think she does.
Okay.
The only person that's not continuing that I'm aware of is Mr. Merkel. And we do have a potential candidate for his spot.
Well, if she does, I certainly have no opposition to a reappointment, so, maybe we can look at that for the 17th, and
Right.
see if we can get that together.
Yeah, I think we should tentatively put it on for the 17th, and I or Laura will reach out to her, or Mike, the chair of the committee, to confirm that she's interested.
Okay, great. So we'll add that to the tentative agenda for a reappointment or an appointment to the tree committee as part of our agenda for the next town hall. Correct? Okay. Any other discussion? All right, next item on the agenda is our calendar. It's packed full with quite a few things. I asked the commissioners that with the budget meetings coming up, that we, in April, starting in April, I think the first one is April 7th, that we be vigilant about if everybody, who can or cannot make the meeting, so we have enough.
And I
Bit of a quorum
also
there.
wanted to point out, and this may very well be just an older calendar, but I do believe that we moved the April 10th meeting to April 9th and the May 8th to May 7th at the request of Director Moody, if I'm remembering that correctly.
You are, and we did. Unfortunately, we've been hit by the flu bug here at Town Hall. We have at least a handful of people that are out. I'm sure it was just an oversight in between people who were off.
Absolutely.
But your dates, excuse me, your dates are correct.
Okay. So just as a note to the public, we're looking at April 9th. So we'll have one on April 7th. We'll have the first one on April 7th. We'll have the next on April 9th, and we'll keep chugging along from there.
Well, now, so we're going to have, so the town administrator will present the budget on the evening of the 7th, is that correct?
That's correct.
So we'll have a work meeting in the,
You'll get an overview of the town budget at that meeting, that's correct.
right, but the meeting that was on the 8th, the budget work session is now, oh, it's now the, I thought the 10th is now the 9th.
The 10th is now the 9th,
The 10th is now the 9th.
right? What happens on the 7th is Mrs. Moody will give you like a snapshot overview of the budget. And then the work sessions for the budget will start in earnest on the 9th. And we'll
Okay.
get into the real thick of the
Right.
details on the 9th. But the 7th, you'll get sort of my presentation and a snapshot overview from her and I.
Right, so we'll get the snapshot overview at 4:30 on the
No,
7th?
No, that's 7. There is no work session on the 7th.
So
Okay, so I mean, there is no work
sir.
session on the 7th,
No,
just the, at the
just-
town hall?
just the town hall meeting, that's
Got
correct.
it. Okay. That's why I was confused. You thought you said you moved the work session from the 8th to the 7th, but we're not moving.
No, we moved so that's in May.
Okay,
The work
May.
session on May 8th is moved to May 7th.
7th, got it.
Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right, crystal clear now. All right, any other comments on the calendar? The staff, okay. Okay, next item on the agenda is a topic that came up initially to Mr. Hopkins, who relayed the citizen to me. We started talking, and Mr. Hopkins and I, apparently there's been a problem for several years about stray cats in Howard Park.
Yes, sir.
I guess it hadn't necessarily been resolved to their satisfaction, and it came to Mr. Hopkins. Mr. Hopkins referred them to me about there might need to be legislation changed, and then Mr. Hopkins said, oh, let me get Chief Woods involved in this, because he handled this back then, and he sent out a very long email
Lot of work on this thing.
that you had done
Mr.
over,
Chismar, yes, sir.
going back to like probably 21 or,
21, but from what I understand, it probably has been going on for several years before that, too. So,
right.
This issue in Howard Park. But yes, 21, probably mid-2021, it started to come to light. I think it first went to Jesse, went to the department heads to try to figure out what the problem was. And we had a person on staff at the time who was pretty involved with the cat colony stuff, and kind of left her to take the lead on it for a while. She got an organization, a nonprofit organization, and they refer to them as TNVRs, Trap, Neuter, Vaccinate, Release. And they worked on the problem for several months, and it seemed to alleviate some of the issues. There was community meetings, there was meetings with other stakeholders. And if you look through the dialogue, there was some concerns that animal control should be, Hartford County Animal Control should be involved in this. And I had, again, I was on the peripheral, but several months passed and things didn't seem to be, it seemed to be de-escalating again, so I kind of started to put my finger in it. Talked to animal control, talked to some of the other governmental officials, and the word I got at the time was that I guess there is a not clearly defined category for those cats over there. They seem to think that they're feral cats, which are wild. I disagree with them. We agree to disagree, because what we've found upon speaking with some of the residents there was that there were 2 residents that were feeding the cats. I made contact with both, and I think Ms. Parker, who was the other employee in the town at the time that was dealing with them, made contact with them. And the one resident did stop feeding them, but another resident did not stop feeding them. So the colony continued to thrive and grow. As we see now, it's again out of control. And it's kind of where we were at with that issue. She did have meetings with animal control, some governmental officials, but the issue never really seemed to resolve. And I'm pretty sure that Shadow Cats continue to go over and make a couple other stops, take the animals down to the Humane Society, and again, but they bring them back. But they are spayed and neutered, but I still think that I'm not that into that type of animal control, so I don't quite understand why we're bringing them back in the neighborhood, but apparently they are. And I guess other stray cats have continued to do what cats do, and they multiplied. We're now at this problem again. The recent course of action, what I've done is, I again reached out to the Harford County Sheriff's Office, who has control over the Harford County Animal Control, and they are running it past their legal counsel. And I'm quite sure, after making some other contacts, that I think they've dealt with these stray cat colonies in other locations in the county. So I'm hoping to get some a positive word that maybe they'll step in and help us out with that. But I haven't heard anything yet. It's been a couple days since this has picked back up. I think that's what I've got right now on that. Is there any other questions on it, or course of action? I put some courses of action. I don't know if the other commissioners got that on there, but as far as
I don't think I've
Yeah.
forwarded that email to you. I think it went.
we can look
We
at
were discussing
legislation.
it, yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we can look at legislation, and I found some favorable ones that we can do some modifications, but I kind of highlighted some of the concerns that I had with going out and citing the individuals over there. I don't know if that's going to resolve the problem. It just might exasperate it. Maybe we can increase the fine, because it's only a $50 fine for an animal issue. And again, I've looked at the legislation from the county, Harford County, and when the animal control, when I did make contact with them, brought up the issue of the feral cats, I truly think, I don't think that their legislation clearly defines what a feral cat is, and it looks to me like their legislation is fine for handling the issue. Again, we could look at, doing some of our animal control legislation, but then the responsibility for dealing with these animals and maybe future animal issues would come to us, and I really don't know if I want to have an animal control unit in the town of Bel Air. Civil citations, should we cite somebody, which we rarely do. We rely on state and local, state laws and transportation article for when we cite people from the police department perspective. We've done a few civil citations, but an issue that we have with that is that if somebody refuses to abide by the citation, they refuse to pay it, or they refuse to go to court, we have to sue them. So monetarily, you're looking at a heavier lift than if you were to go after them with a state law and so forth. So again, I think the county law, I think it's there. I think it kind of, the situation that we're dealing with in Howard Park falls within the confines of that law. But just trying to foster the cooperation in order to get the people that are properly equipped and trained to handle that to come out and deal with it. So it's kind of where we're at. Again, it kind of fell off my radar. I was looking at legislation a while back, which I sent you some of that. It's no problem to strengthen our legislation. Couldn't hurt. But again, I think the old-fashioned way of reaching out and trying to get cooperation out of the people I think that should handle it, I think that's where we're at this point. So I'm just kind of standing by and waiting. But if they don't handle, it's truly an issue over there. I don't know if I've gone over and taken a look at it, and I thought maybe this is a little bit of an exaggeration back in 21 and 22. But I've seen bird parks in the neighborhood. And they are running amok over there, these cats, these stray cats, doing the stray cat strut, I guess, if you will, in the neighborhood, and they're going crazy. So I'm going to go over and check it again, but if we can't get something resolved with this, I'll go out and get the darn traps myself and be out there in the night and have to take them down to the Humane Society, because it's a problem there.
It is.
Yeah.
Actually, Chief, you've hit on what I was thinking. If I was having that kind of trouble with stray animals in my yard, there are those humane traps, and I would just get them and trap whatever cats were bothering my garden, whatever, and turn them into the Humane Society. I don't think the Humane Society is going to send them back to the neighborhood. I think the trap, neuter, people do because they're feral and they just return them to their, home. But I don't think Humane Society would, and that may help. The only thing that's really going to help is all of them being neutered, but that, I'm not sure we can take care of that.
Right.
Yes, ma'am. You're right on point with that. I used to work at a vet's when I was younger, and been bit by all kinds of animals, dogs, and I tell you, the meanest animal out there is a cat. They are.
Yeah.
They are ferocious.
They can be, they're nothing to
Very sharp.
tangle with if they are feral and don't want to be
Right.
bothered, for
Dogs are
sure.
afraid of the cats. If you ever watch those videos. So. Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
So, Mr. Vice Chair, we won't resolve the issue today by any stretch.
No.
And the Humane Society may not be able to take all cats, so I put the work group together. I have all the players. I need to get a date to bring everybody together, because one of the things I want to start with is a firm understanding of the background that Chief Moore just explained, the county's responsibilities, et cetera, et cetera. Because I don't know that there's one solution. Based on the meeting you and I and Chair Edney had last week, I reached out to probably dozen and a half other municipalities across the state. They are filtering their responses back into me, but I don't have everybody's back yet. But by and large, most of the ones that verbally said they don't have a solution either. So this is not an easy solution if the other jurisdictions have not found anything similar. So anyway.
It's a really tough thing to solve, especially if people are feeding them. And, I get it because, they're hungry kitties and they're, in your yard and you feed it, but it's just a self-perpetuating cycle, and then you end up with this huge cat colony that is terrorizing the neighborhood or making it very, unpleasant to live there. But personally, that's what I would do. If I had trouble with cats in my yard, I would be trapping them and taking them down to the Humane Society. But I understand we don't want to flood the Humane Society with 100 cats all at once, so certainly we should get input from the stakeholders, but I'm cautious about overburdening the police department with this issue.
And I think that goes in with what Mr. Hopkins is saying. Let's find out what the roles and responsibilities of all the agencies. I agree with Chief Moore. We don't need to duplicate, give the town another mission about animal control. That's just my feeling. And then talking with the residents.
Our citizens pay for animal control too, right? Because we all live in the county and pay county
Right.
taxes.
Right.
I don't want to have
It's
our
their
own
job.
animal control unit because we can't really. I don't think we should take on that mission.
No. And talking with the resident, one of the residents there, who's Jim Hines, who's also a member of our planning commission, he said it's just, there's feces, and they'll walk in between the houses, and you can smell urine, because there's so many cats there. And
I am 100%
you know.
sympathetic to the people that live
Right.
there, 100%.
They're
for
sleeping
sure.
on their patio furniture, and they're leaving hair and stuff all over their patios and things. And then, just recently in Edgewood, they found a cat with rabies. And they're like, that just raised the bell even louder. So I think it's something we need to we need to help solve that problem over there.
And-
It's not just give it
Yes.
lip service. We gotta finish it up this
exactly.
time.
I'm 100%, I don't want to give it lip service, and I really feel for the residents because the smell of all those cats and the urine is, I'm sure, just terrible, and I'm sure they're destructive to their furniture and everything. We have an animal control department. Let's see what they can do. And I'm very interested in hearing what other jurisdictions have done,
Yeah.
but I really think it's just a really tough problem because I've talked to Patty Parker about it, and the only solution is neutering all those cats so they can't reproduce. But that is hard to do.
And it's cost some of the residents significant amounts of money, because what they do is that they'll go to the bathroom in their flower beds with the mulch. And some
I
residents
get
have
it.
taken the mulch out and put in river rock because that's all it did. It just that was their cat litter, the mulch. And it's like, wow, you think, and it's just a problem and they shouldn't have to put out those expenses.
No.
To put river rock in, which was not.
Still
If
not
they wanted
fixing
river
it.
rock, they would have had that there in the beginning. They did it to help solve their cat problem, so that's,
And Mr. Hopkins kind of touched on this issue a little bit. It's not just a local problem. just doing some of the rabbit hole, going down the rabbit hole a little bit, I think it's everywhere. It's just difficult to define a feral cat and a stray cat. You'll see some of the legislation where they'll say a stray cat is different because that's where an owner is kind of semi-taking, or a person is semi-taking care of them. So I kind of like,
Right.
I think it was from Fayette, Missouri, the legislation there that kind of broke it down a little bit more from the feral cat, from the wild cat, to a stray cat, to a pet.
Right,
So,
it has, yeah. It had human, I was looking at those definitions
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
It can interact with humans, whereas a feral cat has really had no contact
Right.
with humans,
Yeah.
and it's purely wild,
Yeah.
so, yeah. But the county has some, well, we'll go through it. The county has some legislation about what they say is, and they don't even define feral, from what I could find. So it was just cats.
well, they say owner.
Owner or
They say something
keeper.
about owner in there, so I think
Right,
that's where
owner
they're
or
going.
keeper.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Right, so it's, and if you're feeding them, in my definition, that would be a keeper.
Yep, yep.
If you're feeding them. So that person is
That's-
responsible.
That is where a legislative fix is we're just gonna be chasing our tails, so to speak, because, you know, who's the owner of this cat? I mean, nobody is. What do you do? To me, it's like a stray dog on the street. There's a dog, there's no owner around. Pick it up, off to animal control. Somebody comes and claims it, great. If nobody comes and claims it, you know, up for adoption if it's adoptable. And I would do the same for cats. I mean, if we're going to go to court and try to figure out who the owner is when it's just people feeding the cat out the back door, I just think it's just going to be a nightmare. I mean, to fix the
Right.
problem, I think is just trap the cats and take them to the Humane Society, and that's the end of it. It's much quicker, cleaner, less time consuming, and we can't lose.
Just one
Okay.
question. It's easy to say we're going to get them taken to the Humane Society, but doesn't the Humane Society have the ability to say, thanks, but we're full?
Yes, I know, Mary, and that's why I think we need to involve the Humane Society to see if they've got any useful solutions, because I certainly don't want to take, you know, a dozen cats down there and hear like they're full, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's just pushing the problem off to somebody else, and I think that for the Humane Society is quite unfair. So we've got to come up with a solution somewhere, and not just the Humane Society.
Okay, so, Mr. Hopkins, you're going to try and get a meeting together with all interested parties, the community and animal control?
Not the community, not yet. I need
Not yet,
I
okay.
need for the work group to understand our roles, responsibilities, and limitations, because I'm afraid if we involve the community at this point, there'll be a lot inability to manage expectations. I'd really rather have a good working
Sure.
knowledge of the
Okay.
problem.
Good idea.
Then bring the community to the table where we can explain to them what we can and can't do. And also, again, give them a chance to explain the problem, because I'm sure, in addition to the one or two people you and I have spoken to, there's probably a handful of others that have not come forward yet, and maybe also have some solutions. I really do want to get the work group together first, so that
Okay.
I can properly manage expectations.
All right, sounds good.
I agree with Eddie on that,
Yep.
because everybody knows there's a problem. That's you know, we don't need community input on that. There is a problem. What we need to do is figure out what tools we have in the toolbox to try to fix it.
Okay. Any other discussion on that topic? Okay, one topic I didn't have on there, but I'd like to bring up, is that I'd like to, I mean, Mr. Hopkins, we've had some discussion in our monthly breakfast sessions with Chair Edding. I'd like to have a list of, and have other commissioners have input of list of things we'd like to accomplish. And then, you know, and then have a prioritization of them in a work session and whatever, so that, and then start attacking those things. You know what I mean? So what we want to change, what we want to do in town and whatever, have that list. And then whether it's legislation or whatever, and then, so we can attack that. So I'd just like to put out to the rest of the commissioners, if there are things that you see that you want done or needs to be done, or whatever, that maybe our next work session, we'll try to compile that list, or you could just, maybe even, we'll compile the list and start working down that type of thing. This way we have kind of like a plan as to how we're going to move forward with it.
So we did.
Sound like a good idea? Okay.
So we did establish a list of priorities in terms of legislative priorities that the commissioners wanted, which we are slowly working through them. We just happened to take a break this
Got
work
it.
session. Other accomplishments that you have brought to our attention, both collectively and individually, usually have been around violation issues that we have addressed or are in the process of addressing. But no, I have no problem if the commissioners during the work session want to identify or whiteboard, a list of things that they each want to see, again, individually or collectively,
Right.
and then prioritize them. We can certainly do that as well.
Right.
But for right now, we do have the legislative priority list that we're working on, and the notice of violation, the aesthetic quality issues that you have brought to our attention. We're
Okay.
working on those as well.
Right. The legislative, in any of those lists, do we think it'd be something good that we review at our work sessions? We go see what that list looks like, and,
Oh, absolutely.
things change and priorities may change,
Right.
depending on what's going on and stuff like that. So, like you said, the legislative issues and stuff like that, let's maybe have that as an item
Sure.
on our work sessions.
Right, and then again, we just got through the mixed use ones. I just kind of took a break because those were pretty intense for a couple of weeks.
Right.
I know the next two things that you and Commissioner Edding had brought to my attention that's on the list are cannabis and short-term rentals, not necessarily in that order.
Yeah, got it.
But those are two of the next two items, and one of the issues with cannabis is we wanted to see what the Maryland legislature was going to do with any cannabis legislation, which kind of bumps short-term rentals to the top. But again, I understand your point. I have no problem doing that if you like. Sure.
Okay. Because I think Commissioner Edding and I may know it because we have the monthly meetings, but I don't know if the other commissioners knew that was like just go
I think
over it every meeting.
that list has been shared with all of us. A couple months ago, town administrator asked us to provide input on what our priorities were in terms of ranking,
Okay.
the topics. And yeah, I mean, I certainly feel engaged with the process of us working through these issues as they come up. I know that I have interest in short-term rentals as well.
Right.
Working with Mr. Krantz on a single subject policy right now, and I know that I'm very keenly interested in working with Mr. Small on gun range land use zoning. So that's just a handful of things that I have on my personal priority list for the next couple weeks.
Okay.
But I'm more than happy to contribute to a communal
Right.
priority list.
Okay. So, all right, with that, for the next item, commissioners' comments?
Okay, well, as the town of Bel Air is charging into the burgeoning niche of feline law, I wanted to provide a few legislative updates from Annapolis the past couple days. Mr. Krantz, you'll be happy to know that SB 88, the municipal election bill, and its House crossfile have both cleared their chambers of origin. Crossover is on Monday, at which point those bills will be considered in the opposite house. It is highly likely that both versions of those bills will pass. It passed the Senate unanimously. It passed the House with some partisan opposition because I won't comment on it, but I think some folks in the House may have misunderstood the intent of the legislation. But nevertheless, it looks set to pass. Hopefully, the Senate. We want to turn that mic down. The Senate passed it unanimously, and we know what an important win this will be for municipalities. So we're very thankful that the state is acting on that quickly. It's also important to note that that is an emergency piece of legislation. So as soon as it passes one house or the other, once the governor affixes his signature, it will become law. So my hope is that for our good friends in Havre de Grace, they will be covered by that in time for their May election. The idea being that the governor should sign it, hopefully early April. I also I know Mr. Small isn't here, but there were a few planning-related bills that were relevant. SB 891 was put on for a voting session before the Education, Energy, and Environment Committee. Today, actually, that is the ADU mandate bill that would basically provide a broad statewide mandate for municipalities and localities to allow ADUs on any land zoned for single-family use. That received some pushback once again from both MACO and MML today. Sometimes I hear it asked, what do we get out of MML? And it's little wins like this that bill was held off for yet another voting list. There are still more concerns that haven't been addressed. We'll see if it has the votes to move out of committee. The House cross-file of that bill was heard rather late. It was heard last week. I don't know if the Environment and Transportation Committee in the House has an appetite to move that before crossover, but we generally, a bill sponsor would like to see their bill moved out of the Chamber of Origin before Monday. After Monday, it becomes increasingly unlikely that that will move. Now, that doesn't mean that it won't move. Like we saw the governor's housing bill last year didn't make the crossover deadline, but because it was the governor's bill, had the political juice to push it, to sort of put it on a rocket docket across the finish line. This is not an administration bill. This is a individual senator's bill, which makes me think that it has a little less institutional support. So we'll see where that goes, and I'll keep everyone updated. We only have 4 weeks left of the session. There's not much time left, so you can expect sort of an update on where we are at each of our next couple meetings, and I'll keep everyone apprised. I don't want to steal the mayor's thunder, so if the mayor's in a position to talk about it, HB 1255 was heard today before Environment and Transportation. I thought the hearing went well. I watched it virtually. The mayor did a great job. Mayor Edding, was there anything you wanted to add about that hearing?
No, I thought it went very well. Certainly it's the least controversial bill that committee heard today, and hopefully the committee chair was nodding when I was speaking. I took that as a good sign, so hopefully we'll see some positive action on that.
I agree. I thought the way that Delegate McComas, Mayor Edding, and Laura from planning all, worked to make sure that their testimony dovetailed, make maximum use of their time, and really explain that this is not at all a mandate on anyone else in the state. This is just adding an option for our Historic Preservation Committee, that if they so choose, appeals can go to the Board of Appeals before going to the Circuit Court. Maybe they won't ever go to the Circuit Court. Certainly people's right to go to the Circuit Court is preserved if they wish. I know there was some some concern from other jurisdictions, namely Baltimore City, that does want to make sure that everything goes directly to the Circuit Court. It makes sense for a jurisdiction as large as Baltimore City that you would jump to the legal option. For a small town such as ours, that doesn't make quite as much sense should there be an appeal from the HPC. So it doesn't seem like there's any opposition to the bill. The question will just be, is there the appetite to vote it out? There's no Senate cross-file, so we're relying on Environment and Transportation to vote it out before Monday. Fingers crossed. That every indication at the hearing was that it looks good, but we will just keep saying. And that is everything that I think is relevant to the town of Bel Air over the past couple weeks.
Any other comments? Discussion? Okay, next item on the agenda is closed session. Do I have a motion to go to a closed session?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I move that this portion of the meeting will be closed under the provisions of the Maryland Open Meetings Act, General Provisions, Article 3, Section 305B1, and the topics of discussion will be to discuss the appointment of officials to the town boards, commissions, and committees. The reason for closed session discussion of above topics will be because public discussion of candidates' names, qualifications, experience, and background could discourage people from volunteering for public service or compromise their privacy rights.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Okay, motion passes, and we will go into closed session. We will not be returning to open session to do any other business except to adjourn.
Give me a moment, and I will end the live stream.
Okay?